see your name. So welcome. We have a small group today and an even shorter agenda because we don't have a quorum, and so it appears that we can't actually approve. Oh, Peter, we can't approve the minutes, so we might as well defer them until the May meeting as well. Robert Miles can't come. He's tied up in a face-to-face meeting on campus, and Craig is out of state, and he gave me that notice some time ago. So I guess having said that, we can just move through it. Well, before I say that, let me just confirm that, well, if you did see my email yesterday, Mike and I confirmed, because he's been feeling so rotten, that we looked at the agenda and we made a decision to defer 2 items until the May meeting, because they actually are served better in the May meeting with a bit more lead time, as I tried to explain in my email. So we have quite a short agenda for today, even shorter now without the minutes. But Mike still has 5 reports to give, so we're going to try and give him some support so he doesn't lose his voice again. Mike.
All right, let's go here. Let's go to our financials.
Okay.
So, let's see, looking at them, we have got the March 2022 financials. We're looking good again. We had quite a bit of charter activity, which has helped us again. And I know I reported this in the past that once basketball ends, that's kind of the end of our chart, but that hasn't been the case. So we've had some good airplanes coming in, a 737 with baseball team, and they stayed here 3 days, and we got some good overnight activity from them, and they took on fuel, so that was good too. So we're still seeing some good charter activity, and that's been why the jet sales are so high, and then also our airport fees, why they're up. And so we had like I said again, a good month. I'm looking down to the expenses. You can see airport services. This is something Keith brought up. I want to mention that as well. Is pretty high. Reason for that is because we used a lot of temp, our part-timers, and so the airport services is the operations side of the airport, and so that's where a lot of that came in as well. The temp that we have, and then also the part-timers, because they worked more hours for the month.
Mike, just curious if I could, do you use a temp agency, or are these just straight temps through ACC government?
Well, what we do, we do both. A while back, we just hire part-timers, and a lot of times they wouldn't work out for one reason or another. So what we've decided to do, and we've been doing this probably for a year, maybe a little over, is that we do have a temp agency that Athens-Clarke County works with. And so we'll, if we hire somebody through maybe the UGA Aviation Club or something, we'll put them on the temp service at first, and just see how they work out. And if we feel like they've worked hard and they'll work out, on the line or behind customer service, then we'll go ahead and put them on ACC payroll.
Okay.
So it's really helped us out a lot, in that respect.
So Mike, those charters, are they all athletic teams, or are they any corporate or private?
We've got a lot of corporate coming in. The charters have all been athletics. But we have a lot of corporate coming in. David and I were just talking about that this morning, about how good the business has been on our ramp. It seems like, any given time of the day, we have a pretty good ramp full of airplanes, and they're mostly corporate. We've got some general aviation, but most of them are corporate. So they're up and flying again, which I'm happy to hear and see.
Mike, this is Grant. Do we run those? Are those charters kind of self-identified, or they run through this Wheels Up program, or how does that work?
Well, the Wheels Up and NetJets, although they are charters, we consider them more corporate on the corporate side. And we just charge them a ramp fee, where the charters actually we get a little bit more from them because we have to handle the bags. We charge for that at Teams, and then we also charge for the air stairs for the larger aircraft, and the landing fee for the charters as well. So yeah, we identify them as a like you say, an athletic team. That would be more of our
Yeah.
charter. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
if I remember, when we talked with Lara Kaufman in Greenville,
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about, they don't have passenger service, but they have a lot of corporate and charter business, and the same with PDK.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, it sounds good that whatever happens with commercial passenger service, if the traffic in the other two categories is growing, that's good,
It is good. And I don't want to confuse you. I mean, that's the way we do it here as far as differentiating when we're talking about charter and Wheels Up. See, Wheels Up and that type, they are charters. They actually do charter. But we consider the charter more of the athletic type, when we talk about that here.
Okay. Thank you.
So going on down to our gallons, you can see we're still holding steady on the avgas for the month. It's 81, almost 82,000 gallons. Again, Jet A just going through the roof. You'll see that when I get to the charts as well. 48, almost 49,000, which is really good. And then the operations, it's staying steady. We saw it higher prior to COVID, and it's slowly increasing. It's getting there. I'm anxious to see what the summertime's going to bring us. The wintertime is always a tough time for general aviation to get out, pull their airplanes out and get in. But summertime and springtime, fall, especially when you want to go flying. But I'm anxious to see how things go, during the summertime, since COVID's kind of where it is now. So let's see here. Let's look at a chart. Okay, here's operations. Operations doing good. I mean, probably next year we want to bump the annual budget up from what it is this year. The Jet A sales, as you can see, we're almost at the annual budget, so we'll have to move that mark as well if it continues on. And it was so hard to set the budget, for these type things when things were so volatile. So we just kind of did the best we could, basically. But I'm glad to see that we're busting through that annual budget on the Jet A. And then avgas, as you can see, nowhere near what we had been doing in the past. Still kind of low, but I'm anxious, like I say, to see what the summer's going to bring us as well. Any questions?
Mike, just real brief, since we're just about done with April, any feel on how April's turning out?
I tell you, with the corporate side and the Wheels Up, I think we're going to have a real good month as well. Of course, fuel is relative. You're only going to buy your fuel that you're going to use. So that's, but then you talk about the airport fees, that I think that's going to be uh, a good number as well in April, because we are seeing some charters. This is definitely died off. When you go out there and look at our board of charters right now, there's nothing on it. You might see one or two on it, but anyway, so all of that does help. But I think April you might start seeing it kind of slim down a little bit on the airport fees. But still doing good. All right. Let's see here. I'll stop sharing that. Yeah, see Blaine there. Hey, Blaine.
Hi, Blaine. Good to see you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you. Good to see y'all as well.
All right, so let's move on to capital improvement project updates. So let's start with the localizer. We've got we did a walkthrough with GDOT and the contractor. The FAA was scheduled to do a flight check on the localizer, I think it was 3 weeks ago. They canceled that, FAA did, and then we were supposed to have it on Good Friday, which I thought, that's kind of strange. I never heard them do it on Good Friday. Anyway, they canceled it. So now it's scheduled for this Friday. And DBT, who is our contractor, working with the FAA on the flight check, he says we're ready. So I'm anxious to get that going again. And then the Taxiway Alpha project, we talked about, a couple of meetings ago, and I know all of you know this, is we talked about blasting on Taxiway Alpha because the standard is, I guess, that the runway has to be higher than the taxiway, and so they did lower it, but we were hitting rock, and then there was a water line too that crosses the runway from Lexington underneath the taxiway and even the main runway. Well, we didn't have any issues with it on the main runway because the main runway is at elevation. So what we've decided to do, because the cost was going to be so much to blast and lower that water line, was to go ahead and raise it, the elevation up. So in doing so, GDOT's approved us to do a redesign with Holt. And Holt's not on today. He actually went home sick. He said he had a fever. But and that was the Chris, that is, Lowry with Holt. But so they're doing the redesign right now. We got it approved and signed by the mayor last week. We sent it right on to them. They started it. They said it should take about 2, maybe 3 weeks to get that redesigned. Once it's redesigned, then we'll go ahead and get the contractor back out here and finish up the job. So we're anxious to get that done because we're right in the middle of Alpha 3 being, and it has been that way for a while, kind of in disarray while we're working on it, so it's unusable. I tell you, the tower, everybody that works in the tower has been really, really great. And working with, the aircraft that come in, because right now you can't use taxiway Alpha. What you have to do, if you land on runway 27, coming in from the east, heading west, you have to make a 180 on the runway, or do a loop. If you're a bigger aircraft, do a loop on what is open on Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, and then come back taxi back down the runway. So, it's out of the ordinary, but they've been really, really good about working with us. I have a standing meeting on Wednesday morning with the ops folks and the tower chief. And so tomorrow I'll update them on what's going on. But they have been really, really good. And, I listen to the radio, and some pilots, not everybody understands progress, and that's a good thing. But I do listen to the radio, and I hear, some pilots say, well, when they're going to be finished, and the tower says, well, they're working on it, and they're very, very nice about it. I mean, nobody has gotten upset about it. They're just curious as to when it's going to get done. So that's where we are in Alpha. I'll update you through the month since they're going to be doing the redesign, and I'll let you know how that goes. And then runway 220, we opened bids on that. It came in about $1 million higher than what was estimated. I think the bids opened up at, the lowest bid was 3.5, no, 4.5, I think it was, and it was estimated 3.5. But there are different ways that we can make this work. Hopefully, I know the state. Hopefully we'll have some extra money that they can send our way. And that is something that Peter's working on as well. Peter will be involved in 220 with RS&H because Holt is doing the design right now and up to the bidding. And so then Peter takes over with the construction phase services. And I know he's working on that work authorization right now for me to get to the county, which I'll have to do that 1st of May, I think, and do a agenda item on that. But we've got a lot of things going with 220, and that will be a fantastic project when that one's completed. And then the ROFA, the runway obstruction free area, Peter's actually going to come visit me. Was it when is it, tomorrow or Thursday?
I'll do it on Thursday.
Thursday, okay. Thursday, and we're going to look at that ROFA. That's something that the FAA, when they inspected us, said, we got to take down some trees because they're just, they're just getting a little too high, and they're protruding in our safety areas. So it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, to just take down some trees. There's a little bit more involved in that. So when I talked to the FAA, and this is about time Peter got on board, it was time for me to look at that. And Jim DeGay with of course he's with Baker and he's our planner. So we'll get both of them involved, in that project as well. Let's see what else. A lot going on. We're working to, try to get money for next year for other things as well. But you don't want to have too many things on your plate. I think we've got a lot going on right now, and then we don't want to put the airport in disarray, especially when you got UGA football coming up. We've got 220, that project plus Alpha will be working. So we've got to coordinate that pretty well, come time. Hopefully we'll be done with 220. Anyway, any questions? Am I missing anything? Good. All right. As far as marketing and outreach activities, only thing I could remember is I met with the economic development subcommittee with the chamber. Davin and I did. We actually went last month, and I gave them an airport update, and I told them I was going to go to Arizona and talk to some airlines, and they wanted me to come back, talk to them again. So I did, and they're a good group. They're a group that really cares about the airport. They're there to help, in any way they can to help us achieve our goals, especially with air service and obtaining funding, local funding too, from the local community. So they're a good group, and it's good. It was good to have seen them. I'm going to let Davin talk about ClearPoint.
Yep, there really is nothing to report as far as ClearPoint is concerned. So we have cleaned that up and updated it. And really the next step in that process is going to be when we are looking at strategic planning and what are some things that we need to add. But at this point in time, there's really nothing to report.
Okay.
That's all we have right now.
All right. That's good, though. All good. Any questions or comments before we move on? All right. Well, if we move to the next section under old business, there is now just one item. And as I said, Robert sent his apologies, but he gave me his one sentence update, which I can convey to you, because he has still been busy. And he said, quote, he's been contacting principals regarding field trips to end the school year. So Robert remains ever optimistic and hopeful. I guess, when is school out? It's late May, isn't it? Or is it even earlier than that?
I do not know.
I think it's late May.
I think the majority of them go from about the 10th of May. I think the last ones are out the Friday before Memorial Day.
Yeah. So, it's running out of time, but I think I really, we all appreciate Robert's efforts, because basically keeping on it and reminding them persistently, even for next year, the next school year is in August or September. So I promised him I would convey that update, which he gave me. So any comments or questions to convey back to Robert? All right. The end of the school year is not the time for new initiatives, but I think, he's really good at keeping the ball rolling because they might well start planning for next year, which is good. Okay, so in our amended agenda, we don't have any new business since we've deferred an item from there, which means that the remaining sections of the agenda, the next one is the standing committee updates and reports. And we'll begin with you, Keith, if you have any thoughts and updates to give or looking forward to the coming months.
Yeah, no real update except just we'll need to be working on any plans in relation to strategic plans. If there are adjustments to those, I think we'll probably work on those in the summer as we're given guidance about any timing for doing so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we need to budget that time, you and I in particular, but then also everybody. But I'm anticipating it, so I'm looking. What do you consider summer?
Yeah, we're right there, aren't we?
Yeah, we're almost there, at least June,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Keith. Okay. Operating committee. David, are you still with us?
I am. The UGA Aviation Club's spring fly-in, their big fly-in, will be this coming weekend, Saturday, the 30th, in the hangar that the Flight School of Athens operates out of. I think 11 to 4 is the timeline on that. This is where they give out their scholarship, and it's their going away party of sorts for the club. Other than that, my schedule, Robert and Craig's schedules have all been difficult to get us all in the same place at one time, but we will be holding a committee meeting hopefully within the next few weeks to just discuss some of the ways forward on different operations of the GA side of the airport.
All right. And I'll look forward to hearing from you so I can join you.
Yeah, we'll let you know when that is. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Any comments or questions for David? All right. And we'll look forward to seeing Craig back next time. Okay. So air service development and marketing. I know Mike is keen to share his experiences from his week in Mesa, Arizona. So, Mike?
Okay. Well, I called Grant up and we discussed this today. I filled him in on the outcome as well. But yeah, so my trip to Arizona was very good, actually. I met with 4 airlines, the ones that I reported on, and it was American, United, and Avilo, and Breeze. There were about, I think there were about 18 airlines there, and roughly 40 airports. But it's really a great avenue to meet these airlines. And I think I mentioned, that a lot of these type seminars, they're so big that really you don't have time to say anything, but you only got your 20 minutes. Well, but this particular conference that Mead and Hunt puts on is invitation only, and they give you plenty of time to meet and greet with all these airlines. I had dinner with Southwest and SkyWest, and there's a ball game that we go to, and we can mingle with them during that time too. So it gets you out there, and they see your face, and they know Athens, and that's real important because a lot of these folks, I've met in the past, so it's not like they change every year, and you gotta create a new relationship. And that's what's so nice. You can always go back to them and say, hey, here I am. Here's my market study. But we had the opportunity to get in front of those four, and American, still interested. And, they talked about COVID, of course, how they're successfully climbing out of that. And they're actually buying new aircraft, which is a good sign. And a lot of them were as well. I think Sun Country was buying new aircraft as well. Um, but um, but the one thing that everybody talked about, and I even saw it on the news this morning, was the pilot shortage. That's a big deal, and it comes from uh, pilots retiring at the mandatory age of 65, and then also COVID. A lot of them just left because of COVID.
Mhm.
And so that left I don't know, what was the number I saw, 14, 15,000, I can't remember what it was, that they're trying to, take care of. Now, a lot of the airlines have taken it on themselves to create flight schools. I think United was one of them. And so they're trying to do about 5,000 students, to get the folks that they need in the seats for them. But and the other thing was the when COVID um, was relaxed a little bit, they started stepping up their schedules again. And what happened was, and you probably see it on the news, is that there's a lot of cancellations because there's no pilots. And so what they started doing now is taking back those scheduled services and kind of make it more manageable with the amount of pilots that they do have currently. And then once they are kind of at that level, they're going to go back as they get more pilots. They're going to go back to those same proven schedules, and then from there they'll work into new markets. Now I think they're still doing new markets regardless, but they're not going as fast and furious in new markets as they would have, if they had the amount of pilots working there. So that's kind of where it is now. It's kind of all over the place. I mean, I think they've dug out of COVID pretty good. Everybody's flying. They're making money, I think. But they are canceling flights. That's not a good thing. So they're ramping down on their schedules, and then just training as can be. But I don't know, man. I wish I was probably 18, because when I was wanting to fly with the airlines, I wore glasses, and they just wouldn't accept you, if you wore glasses at all. Today they will, but now, I mean, there's anybody can get a job if you're qualified, of course, in the airlines or any flight job, really. It's a good time. It's a good time if that's what you want to do. It really is. But regardless, that's where we are. It was a Velo. When I talked to them, they were interested in Athens, but they want to talk more with us. I talked to I talked to Doug Blissett, our consultant with the Meat and Hunt, and we talked about a year ago. I think he suggested doing a new study. Wasn't quite ready for that because I didn't think the numbers were, accurate. They were still down, and I didn't want to spend the money, on something we just have to update in a year or two. So I told them I wanted to wait, probably looking at maybe, you know, um, probably next fiscal year, doing something and updating those numbers. I mean, there's so much growth happening right now. And and so I think I think when we do new market study, it's going to show even better numbers than what we have now. So, but all in all, it was a good trip. Like I say, made a lot of good contacts, and they know us and we know them. It's funny. I tell them where I was from. I say, oh yeah, Athens. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I went to a ball game, or something. I mean, and they're all young folks, and well, most of them are anyway. But yeah, they know Athens, so that's a good thing. Any questions?
So, Mike, I've been thinking about this pilot shortage since you told me, and we see signs of it in the news as well. I mean, what's the turnaround? I mean, when can they expect to meet the need? And I guess they can't really import pilots, like they do in other fields, because isn't everybody short of pilots, or is it just an American thing?
I don't know. I think it'd be everybody, but well, it takes a pilot.
Well,
Go ahead.
and U.S. regulations require both left and right seat pilots, so captain and first officer, 1,500 hours minimum air transport pilot certification.
Yeah.
Whereas internationally, to fly in the right seat, you just need to be a commercially certificated pilot, which you can have at 250 hours. So, no, internationally you don't face the same struggles because you
Okay.
need one seventh of flight time to fill those right side seats.
So what's the turnaround for maybe, meeting the demand they have then, or the need for that?
Well, anytime you have any industrial shortage, it comes down to a pay thing. It's
Yeah.
not that there aren't enough. There aren't enough at the retirement age, but if they pay pilots more, then they'll leave other careers or will stay. So,
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Keith?
it's just how fast they can get these pilots to 1,500 hours.
Yeah.
That's the rule. I heard 250 hours somewhere. What did you hear about that, David? What is that all about? 250 hours.
That's largely what it takes to be a certificate, commercially certificated pilot. But that hasn't been, it's been since the Colgan air crash.
Up in New York.
Up in New York, it's been a 1,500 hour minimum in the U.S. So that's, we're close to 20 some odd years, 30 years or so. 20, I think that was 2006. So
yeah,
pushing 20 years now.
That changed everything then.
Yeah, I could be wrong on the dates too. So nobody fact check me. I'm admitting to my. But yeah, that's the big issue that we have people that don't want to work for. Before that, when Mike was saying he couldn't work for the airlines because of wearing his glasses and this, that, and the other. He also would have been working for $15,000, $20,000 a year to sit in the right seat of an airline job. Now, I think the lowest salary regional airline right seat first officer is making upwards of $60,000 a year plus. So pay has taken quite an increase since we increased the requirements to 1,500 hours. But now we have people, anytime like after this pandemic stuff, we had people leave the industry. We had people get furloughed. Now getting them back in the seats, they want more money.
And some have moved on, done other things. And it costs upwards to $100,000 just to train. Once you get your 1,500 hours and all that, it's about $100,000.
So in general, how long in terms of time does it take for a pilot to get up to 1,500?
Well, hours are hours. I mean, they're true hours. So, I mean, it just depends on how much you sit in that seat to get your 1,500 hours, from student to private to instrument to commercial to ATP, all of that.
A full-time flying job, Diane, is 1,000 hours a year of flying.
Okay, that's interesting to learn.
When you're training, particularly picking up all your ratings to get from taking somebody off the streets, never been in a small plane, through to get all of their ratings, doing that in a year, and they'll come out with, that's fast
That's
to get
tough.
it done in a year.
Yeah.
And they'll come out not with the 1,500 hours, they'll come out just with all their ratings, including their instructor certificates, which will allow them to build the time while they're instructing. So,
Yeah.
Every now and then you'll see people flying 100 hours a month or more, but that's a lot. That's a lot of flying. Really booking it 2 years from zero
Yeah.
to hired by a regional airline at
That's what I
1,500
was
hours,
thinking too, about 2 years.
and that's fast.
Yeah. I mean, you could instruct like David says, or you could fly for a
But
for a
keep in mind
corporate.
also you're making money as a pilot. You're still a professional pilot before you're hired by an airline, so you're making money from, call it 300-ish hours on through that 1,500. You're getting paid to fly. You're just not an airline pilot until that magic 1,500 hour number.
Interesting. Sorry for the questions, but
No, it's a good question.
Great questions.
Yeah, good question.
So last question, then I'll stop. What happens with all the Chinese who used to be training to be pilots in Falcon, and then that closed?
When COVID came, they
were all being sent over by the Chinese airlines to train here.
So they still coming? Are they coming back?
No, they were never coming here to fly here.
No,
they were coming here to train here to fly for their airlines.
Right. So are they coming back to be trained?
No, Falcon's not in business anymore.
That business shut down entirely.
Interesting.
Yeah, when COVID hit, they all had to go back, and then Falcon went bankrupt.
All right. So what you're saying is it can't be next month or even the end of the year before it turns around in terms of the pilot shortage. The turnaround's longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully the sad part is. Go ahead, David.
It's like decades of issues because
keep
in mind, Diane, that there's forced retirement of 65.
The
most realistic thing that could happen to reduce the shortage is to increase the maximum pilot age. If they do that, then you can go online. There are all kinds of websites that show how many thousands of mandatory retiring pilots there are for each airline by the year. So you can see where you've got now the generations that served in the Gulf Wars and so on, where when the airlines were taking a lot of pilots out of the military is not putting through that many pilots anymore. So most of the pilots, that they're gone, and there was a big slump, and then they instituted this 1,500 hour rule, which we hadn't yet seen really the consequence of that until this pandemic, where a bunch of extra people left the industry, or they went off. They accepted an early retirement. They left because they were furloughed. They weren't going to get a retirement, and now you have all of these wheels up and NetJets and what have you that are Part 135 operations that don't have a maximum age, and they're just capitalizing on the opportunity that, well, now we have a very well qualified pilot that we can give a better schedule to, and we can keep them longer. The airline travel is definitely in flux for sure, and it's definitely catalyzed by what's gone on in the economy and the world the last couple of years.
Very interesting. We always learn a lot. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for that interesting update.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Well, if we move on to the last section in our short agenda, Mike had sent me and Keith a request to change the date for the May meeting because he had a conflict. Remember, we had talked about maybe the 17th or maybe the the 30th, or was it 31st, which didn't work out. So we're kind of stuck with May the 17th. And, you know, we hope that'll work out for everybody, but we'll have to just see, you know, if we don't have a quorum again, well, we'll have to deal with it then. But the next meeting, I guess, is basically now confirmed. It'll be on the 17th of May.
Yeah,
So,
David and I have a conference to go to, a state conference that week. So
okay. So we'll work with Devin and we'll get the reminders out to everybody. I just had, as a last item, I just had a thought that I shared with Mike and Keith and Davin when we met about the agenda. You know, shortly after we meet next time, if we meet on the 17th, a week later, there's an election. And it just, you know, we talked briefly about the fact that it's going to be interesting because there are going to be at least 3 new commissioners. And, you know, there could be more if an incumbent doesn't get re-elected, like Patrick Davenport. And, you know, there could even be a new mayor. But one thing's for sure, you know, there's some interesting times ahead in the local leadership, which I just see, you know, I'm just throwing the thought out. There's, you know, there's potential opportunity there if we're going to have more than one new commissioner. Hopefully they might be interested in learning about the airport, like Commissioner Carol Myers and Jesse Houle did, and actually approached us and said, I'd like to learn about the airport, you know, can we talk? So it's going to be interesting in the next couple of months to see, you know, the change in composition and the change in whatever that entails. But I see it as an opportunity for us, you know, that if we're asked, we may have the chance to, you know, do some educating about the airport. We're not going to go out and court them or anything, but if they ask, I think we can be ready. And we've got a nice new annual report we can give them and a fact sheet and other things. So just a thought as we all move forward. All right, well, I guess that's the end of the agenda. The only thing I'll say is, you know, just by way of reminder, Davin did send you all of the materials for the item that we now have deferred till May, and that is the original enabling legislation, the 1988 legislation, as well as our revised bylaws and the RACI chart. And I would just ask you again, you know, if you've never looked at the enabling legislation, do look at it. Section 12, because actually the legislature granted sweeping powers to airport authorities, everything in the book, if you look at it. But those powers were largely taken back at the local level. So it's actually an important thing for us to look at the difference between that sweeping list of powers and then what is in our bylaws that comes from the mayor and commission some years ago in Clarke County. And then that third piece, the RACI chart that is appended to our bylaws, which we do need to look at. You need to look at that carefully, and you'll see some entries on it that are highlighted because they're the ones where there are questions about them. They're either out of date, or there is nothing there listed, or has arisen a question about them. So if you could just, you know, really look at those. I'll send a reminder out, but, you know, we have some tasks that then will fold into our longer term planning tasks as well. And if there's anything about those that, you know, if I'm not making myself sufficiently clear, you know, feel free to email me and we can talk. But I'll just remind you about those. So if there's nothing else, and the other thing is obviously also we deferred till May 17, the landmark properties update, out of which this whole consideration became a need. And Mike will be giving an update on that. So
yeah, that's come along, and yeah, I'll report on that on the 17th.
Okay. So the big thing for the day, Mike, we hope you feel totally better.
Yeah, thank you. This allergy stuff, man, it's never hit me like this before, but it sure has this past week.
Yeah. So I hope you come down from floating on that medicine.
It's good medicine.
And so, hearing no other items or, you know, comments, would you like somebody to give me a motion to adjourn? Short and sweet and early, so Mike can continue to recover. Keith, motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Okay, David, thank you. All right, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Feel better, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, all of you. We will see you on the 17th, but on email before that with reminders and greetings, okay? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.